Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents C.H.A.R.O.N. by Gail Z. Martin, narrated by Jeffrey Kafer. Chapter 1. Unseen hands lifted Brent Lawson and threw him across the room to land hard against a rusted piece of equipment. "Chant faster!" he yelled, staggering to his feet. Travis Dominick never paused, reciting the banishment ritual from memory. He held up a crucifix in his right hand and flipped off his ghost-hunting partner with his left. The temperature in the abandoned blast furnace hovered around freezing, cold enough that Travis could see his breath as he spoke the litany. Their vengeful ghost had grown strong over the years, and while Travis sympathized with the specter's grievance, the attacks had to stop. "Release the anger that binds you to this world," Travis intoned, trying not to be distracted as he glimpsed Brent flying across the room once more. "Accept your death, let go of vengeance, and go into the light." "Just tell him to get the fuck out!" Brent shouted, shaking himself off as he climbed to his feet again. He racked his shotgun and sent a blast of rock salt into the air in the direction his ghostly assailant had last been visible. Cold wind swept through the steel mill, and the strong push of spectral hands came from a different angle, sending Brent stumbling. "Go to hell, you fucker!" Brent shot again, and this time an angry screech echoed through the abandoned mill. "Oliver Grant, I abjure your spirit and bind your soul. Let go of this mortal world and move on. In the name of the Holy Trinity and the Apostles, let it be so." Travis finished the banishment, but another blast from Brent's shotgun told him that Oliver's ghost wasn't going to cooperate. The salt circle around him bought Travis time, keeping Oliver from attacking as he tried to send the spirit on its way. Brent played defense, trying to distract the ghost and draw its fire. Unfortunately, Oliver clung to the place of his death with single-minded tenacity. Travis and Brent researched the ghost before heading for the old mill. Oliver had been a foreman and came to his shift unsteady on his feet one night in 1967. Whether Oliver was ill or drunk seemed a matter for debate, but he had stumbled into a cauldron of molten steel which cremated him alive. The sullied steel should have been discarded. It hadn't been, and instead was molded into I-beams used in the expansion of that same mill. Oliver's ghost never left. The haunting eased when the mill closed, but the recent demolition of some buildings on the lot seemed to have woken the spirit. What the hell were they thinking using that steel? I can't blame Oliver for staying, but the people he's hurting had nothing to do with his fall. Several recent deaths among construction workers on the site seemed directly linked to Oliver, and Travis suspected the ghost's involvement in other equipment malfunctions and accidents. Oliver's ghost materialized in front of Travis, glowering with hatred. He matched the few photos Travis had found, a scowling, stocky man in his middle years, with the shock of unruly white hair and the face of a boxer. From what Travis and Brent pieced together, Oliver had been an angry, miserable person and an overly demanding boss long before his accident. So much so that Travis wondered if Oliver had been pushed. Not that he needed help becoming a vengeful spirit. The ghost's image broke up like static on a bad TV channel. Travis could not mistake the malice in the spirit's smirk. The image flickered and appeared in front of Brent, rushed him, and knocked the gun out of his grasp. Oliver's hands closed around Brent's throat, and Travis did not doubt that the ghost intended to kill. "Fuck you." Travis launched into the rite of exorcism, something he had hoped to avoid. While the banishment ritual wasn't gentle with wayward spirits, the exorcism, designed to send demons back to hell, was brutal. Oliver deserved a bum's rush to the afterlife, and Travis intended to deliver it. "Exorcisamos te omnis immundus spiritus," Travis began, rattling off the familiar Latin. Oliver's spirit flickered as Travis continued the rite. Brent scrabbled to grab a piece of steel behind him and swing it through the ghost's torso. It broke the spirit's hold on his throat, letting him twist away. Oliver screeched and his image blurred, but as Travis read the rest of the exorcism, Oliver struggled to reform. It looked at Travis as if something snatched away parts of the ghost, unraveling him like peeling an apple. "What have you done to me?" Oliver shrieked. His voice sounded thinner, more distant. The image faded as the tendrils, stripped by the exorcism, unraveled his soul. "Not nearly what you deserve." Brent's voice was still raspy from being choked. "Ut inimico sancte ecclesiae humiliare dignaris te rogamus audi nos." "No, you can't, I'm not finished." Oliver's shouts grew fainter as his spirit faded, and the last of the ghost finally vanished. Travis breathed a sigh of relief, and the psychic exertion of the ritual left him drained and hollow. He searched the shop floor for his partner. "Brent?" Brent staggered from the shadows into the sullied light spilling from the filthy broken windows. "Still alive. Do you think that exorcism would work if you recorded it and played at double speed?" Travis looked at his friend and shook his head with fond concern. "Not a bad idea. We can try it. Of course, if it doesn't work, we'll both die, but hey, worth a shot." Brent rolled his eyes. "Next time you fight off the ghost and I'll read the fancy Latin." "You're forgetting the whole ex-priest thing," Travis pointed out. "Bit of an advantage on the exorcism." "Show off," Brent muttered, but his attitude reassured Travis that his hunting partner wasn't too badly hurt. "You okay?" Brent nodded, then winced. "I've had worse, but the bruises are going to be spectacular." "Let's go back to St. Dismas. Matthew can patch you up." Brent's resigned sigh told Travis all he needed to know about his friend's condition. "All right. Do you think there's anything left from dinner? I'm starving." Travis chuckled. "If not, there's always peanut butter and jelly and hot tea to wash it down with. Can you walk?" Brent took a few limping steps. "I'm not going to be entering any dance contest, but I can make it to the car. Matthew will want to keep an eye on you for a concussion. It's movie night for the residents. How about we eat, watch a good flick, and you can crash on my couch," Travis suggested. "Sounds like a plan." Travis noticed how Brent winced when he bent to get into Travis's old Crown Victoria. He wondered if Brent was hurt more than he let on. Typical ex-soldier. "Do you think Oliver will stay gone?" Brent asked. "The exorcism on top of the banishment should make it permanent," Travis replied. "But just to be sure, I'll get some friends to pull a few strings, report that the new section that used the contaminated steel is a biohazard. That means it will be dismantled and sealed in concrete. We'll add supernatural protections. That should do it." "You hope." Travis shrugged. "We don't get a lot of certainty in this business. I'll take what I can get." He glanced at the clock. "We'll have missed dinner at St. Dismas. How about we stop at Folsom Diner? We can grab a bite to eat and see one of my contacts." "You need to see one of your night vigil people?" "Yeah. Darius called and said he had a warning for me. Since his tips have never been wrong, I figured I'd better go see what he has to say." The night vigil was Travis's name for the misfit collection of people with untrained paranormal skills he sought out and tried to save. Having a supernatural skill that went unrecognized, reviled, and denied took a toll. Most of the people Travis had cobbled into a loosely knit found family had damaged themselves and others, and now desperately needed a way to atone. Folsom Diner sat in the Strip District, an area along the Allegheny River where ships and trucks delivered produce, fresh fish, and other bulk items to the wholesalers that provisioned restaurants and caterers. Since the shipments came in at all hours, the diner was open round the clock to serve hungry truckers and sailors. The food was good, plentiful, and affordable. A handful of tired men in flannel shirts filled seats in the diner long after the dinner rush had ended. The smell of coffee, bacon, and French fries hung in the air. The glass cooler case full of cakes and pies greeted them at the register and offered the possibility of sugar resurrection, especially paired with a bottomless cup of Java. "Coffee," Travis ordered for both of them when the server came to their booth. "Just leave the pot. Bring dessert first. I want the coconut cake." "I'll take the lemon meringue pie," Brent said, holding his cup in both hands like the elixir of life. "And then the burger blue plate." "Same," Travis added, figuring simple was best. "And is Darius working tonight?" The server, her name tag read Trish, tucked her notepad into her apron. "Yeah, he's bussing tables. Should be going on break any time now." "Can you tell him that Travis dropped in, please?" He managed to smile. "I'd sure appreciate it." Trish nodded like she was too damn tired to care. "Sure. If I see him, I'll tell him." Dunno if I'd bet money on that, Brent said after Trish was out of earshot. I texted Darius. Trish was back up. Travis replied with a shrug. The adrenaline drop after a near-death experience on a hunt wasn't a surprise after all these years. Travis had been hunting monsters and dealing with malicious supernatural creatures since his mid-20s, when he took his vows for the priesthood and swore his oath to C.H.A.R.O.N, a shadowy secret Vatican organization that dealt with all things paranormal. He left the church and cut ties with the C.H.A.R.O.N nearly a decade later, burned out and disillusioned, angry over the betrayals of trust he'd witnessed and experienced. He walked away from the cassock and collar, but not the work of fighting evil. So now he ran St. Dismas, a halfway house in a tough neighborhood named for the penitent thief at the crucifixion, and hunted monsters on the side. "Father Travis." Travis looked up to see Darius standing beside the table and slid over to make room for him on the bench. "Just Travis. Hi, Darius. This is Brent, my hunting partner," he added with a nod toward his companion. "You said you had something to tell me?" Darius looked to be in his early 20s, still struggling with acne and confidence. A hairnet covered his locks. He wore a black polo shirt, jeans, and a dishwasher's apron, and his hands looked chapped from too much time in water. "Yeah, you said to tell you did the right thing," Travis assured him. "What's up?" Darius looked around nervously, perhaps making sure no one was close enough to overhear. "Don't cross the bridge." Travis frowned. "What bridge?" Darius shook his head. "I don't know. The images I see, they don't always make sense. Like catching a minute out of a TV show you've never seen before. There was a highway bridge with woods and a river, except that the far side of the bridge went into fire and darkness, like hell." Shit. Does he know how many bridges there are in the whole fucking state of Pennsylvania? Were there other details? An unusual building or a big sign? Something? Travis didn't doubt Darius's precognition, but without more to go on, the tip was too broad to be useful. Darius squeezed his eyes shut, and Travis guessed the young man was trying to concentrate on his memory of the vision. "South," he said finally. "Painted on a big wall on a building you can see from the bridge." He sighed. "Sorry, it's not much, but you said it's fine." Travis saw how skittish Darius was and guessed he feared they would think he had wasted their time. Visions usually don't make sense until all the pieces come together. We'll know to keep an eye out, and it might save our lives. This is exactly what I meant when I told you to call me when you had a tip, no matter what. Darius nodded and his Adam's apple bobbed. "Okay, good. I just want to help." Buried in the earnestness, Travis recognized guilt and the desperate need for absolution. He knew Darius's story, how he had ignored premonitions that ended up costing lives because his ability bewildered and frightened him. The church had terrified him, made him fear hellfire, and because of that, people died. Just one more reason I left that all behind. For years, the Sinistram held Travis's ability as a medium over his head, threatening excommunication or worse. When he realized he no longer cared, he walked away free. "Your ability is a good thing," Travis told Darius. "Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise." Darius nodded, but Travis saw the doubt in his eyes and hoped that someday it would fade. "If you see anything else, please call," Travis urged. Darius ducked his head and nodded, then vanished into the kitchen. "If we're going to avoid bridges, we aren't going far in Pennsylvania," Brent said when Darius was gone. "We both know how visions work," Travis replied. Brent's ghostly twin brother Danny used to pass along warnings from the other side, and Travis's night vigil friend shared information that had saved their lives many times. "They're a real bitch. Too much information to let someone sleep at night, not enough to always help avoid what they saw," Brent agreed. "At least your ghosts talk." Travis snorted. "Sometimes, or they talk in riddles. It's not like they just lay the whole issue out there. Nothing paranormal is simple." Trish brought their dessert and assured them the burgers wouldn't be far behind. Brent moved as if every muscle hurt, and a bruise on the left side of his face would probably be spectacular come morning. Travis knew Brent wouldn't admit how much he was hurting, but he could see the way the other man winced when he moved and bit back a groan as sore muscles protested. When they finished eating, Travis paid the check and hustled Brent to the car. "Let's have Matthew take a look and make sure it's not worse than sore muscles. He can give you something for the discomfort." "I'm okay." "Sure you are." They drove to St. Dismas, and Travis felt glad that Brent had agreed to stay over. He knew his partner was hurt worse than he let on, and was grateful that Brent relented enough to allow St. Dismas's medic to check for serious injuries. Matthew was ex-Army, like Brent. Travis resigned himself to the fact that their shared experience led to an unspoken understanding he would never fully fathom. "As long as Matthew gets Brent to take care of himself, I don't mind being odd man out." Travis still felt surprised when he thought about the past year, how he had gone from working alone to finding a partner, one with whom he was exceptionally in sync despite their disparate backgrounds. They had hated each other in their first encounter, then grudgingly moved to mutual respect and discovered they made a good team. Travis now counted Brent as one of his closest friends, a brother by another mother, as it were. "How do you feel, really?" Travis asked, as he pulled into his parking space at St. Dismas, one of the few perks of management he permitted himself. "Like I was hit by a bus and dragged for a few miles over cobblestones," Brent growled. "Okay, don't bite. I texted Matthew while we were at the restaurant. He's expecting us. He'll get you patched up and give you something for the pain." Brent's grunt signaled agreement, even though he shook off Travis's helping hand to assist him from the car into the building. John, Travis's second-in-command, waited at the door. "What's the damage? How can I help?" Travis and John were an odd pair. At 33 and 6'2", Travis was solid, lean muscle with chin-length black hair and green eyes that were in sharp contrast to the pale coloring of his Irish heritage. John was 5'10" and 40-something, built like a fireplug with close-cropped dark hair, wary eyes, and chestnut skin. John had been an Army chaplain before St. Dismas, and his military background still showed itself in his movements and tone. "Brent got thrown around while I banished the spirit," Travis replied, hovering close in case the other man collapsed. "Matthew better check for a concussion, fractured ribs, and broken bones. Brent's going to need something for the pain." "I'm okay," Brent protested futilely, although the way he winced from movement and his quick, sharp breathing put the lie to his protests. "I'll judge that." Matthew Sanchez joined them in the corridor, a wiry man in his early 30s with thick black hair and stubble. "Let's have a look." Brent followed Matthew to the shelter small clinic, which could handle minor illnesses and injuries to help their residents, and Travis avoid trips to the emergency room. Travis waited in the hallway, letting Brent have some privacy. "Rough night?" John pressed a cup of coffee into Travis's hands. "Could have gone better, but it also might have been a whole lot worse," Travis conceded. Both John and Matthew knew about his extracurricular activities hunting monsters. "But we got the job done." "Do I need to scrounge up food for you?" John asked. Travis shook his head. "We ate. Although if we're making popcorn for movie night, might be good to make a little extra." "I think we can manage that," John replied. "The beds are full tonight, and the guys seemed excited about the movie, or maybe just the popcorn." "Both, I'm sure," Travis said. St. Dismas was, as far as most people were aware, a halfway house, soup kitchen, food bank, and shelter, a last-chance outpost for tired souls seeking refuge. Being Travis's base of operations for hunting was a well-kept secret. Matthew opened the door after a while and motioned for them to come inside. The room smelled like liniment. Brent sat shirtless on the exam table, his chest and back covered with bruises. He looked haggard for only being in his early 30s. Though he had been out of the military for years, his muscular build suggested boot camp rather than gym rat. The cut of his blonde hair said civilian, but the way he sat, poised to spring at the first sign of threat, said military. "Nothing broken," Matthew told them after a nod from Brent. "But the pulled muscles are going to hurt like a mofo. I've given him heavy-duty ibuprofen and something for the pain, at least for tonight." Matthew gave Brent a stern look. "Don't mix the pain meds with alcohol." Brent frowned. "Not my first rodeo." "Won't be a problem tonight," Travis assured the medic. Out of respect for their residents who struggled with sobriety, Travis didn't permit any alcohol on site, even in his apartment. He didn't have a personal objection to drinking and would share a few with Brent when they were elsewhere, but he was glad that for tonight he could make sure Brent didn't do any self-medicating. Travis tried not to notice how Brent hobbled toward the multi-purpose room, and he slowed his stride to accommodate. "Quit hovering," Brent crabbed. "Just being polite." Brent grumbled, apparently not in agreement. That made Travis smile, because if Brent felt well enough to be curmudgeonly, he wasn't on death's doorstep. John already had the big room set up with rows of chairs, a table with chips, popcorn, and pitchers of lemon blend on one side, and a big screen in the front. Most of the seats were already full, so Travis and Brent slid into the last row. From the buzz of conversation, Travis knew his pick of movies had been a good fit. Light on plot, plenty of action and explosions. Perfect for a Friday night. The chatter quieted once the movie began. John kept the volume reasonable to reduce the risk of loud noises triggering any of the residents with PTSD. While that technically also included him and Brent, Travis knew their triggers lay elsewhere. It made him happy to see their residents enjoying the movie, putting aside their worries for a little while. Brent shuffled in his seat, clearly trying to get comfortable. "We can leave if you want to," Travis whispered, realizing that the hard plastic chairs probably weren't helping Brent's sore body. "I'm all right," Brent muttered. Travis knew the action flick was one of Brent's favorites, which might make him willing to put up with the discomfort. Halfway through, Travis nudged Brent when he snored loudly. Brent flailed and nearly tumbled from his chair. Travis muffled a snicker. "Come on, you're falling asleep." "Am not. You snore louder than the explosions," Travis whispered. "You'll be more comfortable on the couch. This is a tough crowd. They might throw popcorn." Okay. Brent sounded like a grumpy child. They slipped out of the room, and Brent followed Travis to his quarters. St. Dismas took over a hard luck hotel, renovating and repurposing the spaces. Travis and John both had small apartments in the building so they could serve as live-in coordinators. Matthew had a place nearby, while Brent's house was on the south side. "Home sweet home," Travis announced as he turned on the lights. The space was small, with a bedroom, bathroom, kitchenette, and living room. After years spent in monasteries and barracks, Travis loved having a place of his own. Grants and donations paid the bills and staff salaries for St. Dismas, while a few secretive patrons helped finance Travis's monster hunting. Travis had learned to live with little, but he was happy with the cozy space he had outfitted from thrift shops and yard sales. "Better sit down before you fall down," he told Brent. "I'll get stuff to make up the couch for you." He grabbed sheets, a blanket, and a pillow, and came back to find Brent half asleep. "Scoot over," he said, nudging Brent to one end of the sofa. "Then you can crash as hard as you want." Brent muttered something unintelligible. Travis chuckled as he tucked the bedding into place, and then gave Brent a gentle shove that sent him sprawling onto the cushions. "Breakfast downstairs is pancakes and eggs," he said, tossing a blanket over Brent and pulling off his boots. "If you sleep through that, lunch is bologna sandwiches, chips, and carrots. I'll call Alex and let him know you're safe." Alex Wilson, Brent's part-time assistant in his private investigator business, knew about the hunting side of Brent's life and was happy to cover absences. Travis and Brent had helped to save Alex and his husband from a dark witch, providing a rough introduction to the hidden world of the supernatural. Thanks to the pain medication, Brent slept hard. Travis wasn't as lucky. His dreams stitched the worst memories together in a loop, picking the most terrifying moments, the most bitter losses. Travis relived monster fights he had barely survived, remembered exorcisms and possessions, smelled blood and tasted bile. He woke from his own cries, sweating and heaving for breath. It took effort and long moments to slow his heartbeat and gather his wits. "That's in the past. I survived. I left the Sinistram. It's over. I'm alive." Travis knew it would take a while for him to fall asleep again, if that was even possible. Afraid he might have woken Brent, he padded out to check on his guest, relieved to find him breathing deeply and evenly, comfortable on the couch. "Matthew gave you the good drugs," Travis muttered. He rarely minded not keeping whiskey in his quarters, but nights like this made him wish for a flask to blur the dreams and help him sleep. With a sigh, Travis contented himself with a cup of chamomile tea before padding back to bed. The drink calmed his nerves, but he still tossed and turned, and didn't drift off until it was nearly time for his alarm. Chapter 2. I used to have a spectacular night out before feeling this shitty. Brent stumbled to the small kitchen table, guided largely by the smell of fresh coffee. He still wore the clothing from the previous day, and his mouth tasted like roadkill. You're not in your 20s anymore. Getting older sucks. Travis put a steaming cup of coffee in front of Brent, along with a plate of scrambled eggs and pancakes. Better than the alternative. Did you cook? Travis laughed. No, I ran down and grabbed us breakfast plates from the dining hall. Figured I'd spare you having to get showered and dressed before you could eat. Brent murmured his thanks, still a bit too drugged to be articulate. He took a gulp of hot coffee and bit back a moan of pleasure. Usually he hated losing his edge to medication, but Brent had gradually learned over the years to surrender to necessity. Refusing treatment only prolonged pain and extended his convalescence. Travis took a seat across from him and dug into his stack of buttermilk pancakes and fluffy eggs. They ate in a companionable silence. Travis refilled their coffee whenever the cups got low, and Brent reveled in the carb, caffeine, and protein fix, topped off by the sugar hit of real maple syrup. Thanks for letting me crash. Travis looked up. I wasn't going to leave you on your own. I've survived before. You shouldn't have to. I could have been the one who got all beat up just as easily. John and Matthew take care of you, Brent said with his mouth full. We take care of each other, Travis replied. Brent muttered something, but didn't contradict him. In the years since demons murdered his twin brother, Danny, and their parents, Brent had plunged into work. First in college, then the Army, the FBI, and a brief stint as a cop, before becoming a private investigator and part-time monster hunter. He'd kept most people at a distance, afraid of getting them killed. Danny's ghost had kept him company for most of that time, but even he was gone now, possibly for good. Once Brent and Travis had warily circled each other and decided against homicide, they developed a solid partnership and grudging friendship. Brent knew he still had plenty of shit to work through, but being accepted into Travis's circle with the St. Dismas crew provided the first sense of family he'd had in decades, and it surprised him how much that mattered. Have any intel on something new to hunt? Brent asked after he'd cleaned his plate, swallowing the last of his coffee. Nothing solid. Probably wouldn't be a bad thing if we took the rest of the week off. Heal up a little before we get thrown around again. Nah, I'll just be in the salt circle this time and you can get tossed through the air. Brent smirked. Travis pushed the bottles of pain medicine and muscle relaxants across the table. Here you go, and if you try to forget to take them, Alex will tell me. Turncoat, Brent whispered, although he didn't really mind having his friends watching out for him, even if it was something he still struggled to get used to. He just doesn't want to have to pick you up off the floor and haul your ass home, again, Travis pointed out, and Brent swore under his breath. That happened once, Brent argued. Apparently, it was memorable, or traumatizing. Brent stood, trying not to wince. Seriously, I'm fine. I've been shot, stabbed, and worked over by the mob. I'm gonna go home, take a hot shower, check in with Alex, and then sleep the rest of the day, okay? Don't take the pills before you drive, Travis warned. Yes, Mother. Travis flipped him off, but Brent could see that his friend's worry had eased. I'll call you when I get in, and if you want to check around dinner time to make sure I'm still breathing, that's fine, Brent added, knowing that Travis was truly concerned. It had been a long time since Brent had people who cared, and he was out of practice accepting their help. Okay, and if anything goes wrong, call, Travis said. One of us will come pick you up. Yeah, thanks for the grub. I appreciate it. That's what we're here for. Brent did his best to hide how sore he was as he walked to his truck. He'd had much more serious injuries, but that didn't make his current situation any less painful. He checked his rear-view mirror as he drove, unable to shake the feeling that he was being followed. Despite not seeing any suspicious vehicles tailing him, Brent took a number of switchbacks and extra turns on his way home just in case. When he pulled into the drive at his house and no other car closed in, he let out a long breath. "Hello, Brent."
Sample complete. Ready to continue?